Hey, we're the Color Guys. I'm David,
And I'm George.
and we are back today. We have Billy Chastain with us from Dominion Energy. Billy is the manager of lake management and parks and recreations for Dominion Energy, South Carolina. Billy, you were with us about a year and a half ago, so
That's
welcome
right.
back to the Color
Hey,
Guys.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Brought to you by Dick Dyer, Mercedes-Benz, the first Mercedes-Benz in South Carolina.
Issue happens and we have to generate more power. We're going to certainly be in a good position to maintain our level, which is around 358 feet above sea level. So,
Well, I don't think people love the beautiful weather we had late last summer, and because it wasn't raining a lot, but George and I saw the impact when we were showing homes around the lake because we'd take people to the dock.
Sure.
They would be a little disappointed, but y'all work managing that lake and the level of that lake's a pretty sophisticated process for y'all, correct?
Well, it really is because it's not just the rainfall, it's how much, Lake Greenwood, per se, is at the other end of the Saluda River. And depending on how much rain they get in the upstate and how much, they open their gates up on that end at the Buzzards Roost Dam, it affects us greatly. And really more than rain runoff, it affects the level that we have to maintain. So we're constantly looking at rainfall levels and how much Greenwood, we've got gauges that we can look at there, how much they're letting go. And it's certainly, it's not a one-man show, it's several people that are engaged in managing those water levels, along with how much do we need to generate how much power. So that's all got to be in the equation, and it's very complicated and it's challenging depending on how much rain we get or not. It can be very challenging because we do have a minimum flow that we have to put in the lower Saluda River to protect the fish habitat and the oxygen levels in those waters. So people don't understand that we just can't dam up the lake completely. We have to allow minimum flows to occur. And with that, I mean, if you don't get rain, the lake's going to come down some.
Yeah.
So we've been very fortunate in many of the years, where the water has been able to stay pretty close to that 358 through September.
Nice.
So when the lake lowers the water level, a lot of people they start to think that the land that's now showing is technically theirs and they can do as they please on it. Could you talk a little bit about that 360 line and what people are permitted and not permitted to do between?
Right. So, like I said, our recreational season level, we try to keep it, 357 or 358 to keep the water levels up. And when you spoke of the 360, that's our high water mark. So in a lot of cases, that's the property line that divides Dominion Energy property from the resident. Now, there's several other categories that we can talk about, such as environmentally sensitive areas, vegetated buffer zones, that Dominion may own some more property above that 360 that are certainly regulated too. But just to talk about that high water mark and below toward the water would be, that's under our shoreline management plan, and all of that property is regulated. And so any kind of structure or activity below that 360 line would have to be approved by Dominion Energy Lake Management. And we would just encourage anyone before they do anything to dig a hole or anything below that water line to call our office and get permission to do so.
Certainly. So I want to bring up about the islands in the middle of the lake, like Baum Island, the preserve where the purple martins are.
Right.
Is that Dominion property as well?
That particular island is, and the majority of the islands in Lake Murray are owned by Dominion Energy.
Yes, sir.
But there are some of the islands that are privately owned by one or more people, and that's a little challenging because it's their property.
Yep.
But in most cases, other than I think of one, that nobody's been able to really, I guess, develop those, or unless they've been right by the shoreline and there's like a causeway to it. But the main islands out in the middle, are in their natural state for the most part.
Yes, sir.
So,
So, I want to bring up, this more of this because I want the public to be aware, because some things that you shared that were occurring last year out
Right.
of your parks.
correct.
If you have this entrepreneurial idea that you're going to sell cruises,
Right. That's right.
from your public docks,
Correct.
day-long excursions out to these islands with,
Correct.
people selling, providing whatnot.
That's right.
Really, they shouldn't be thinking about
it's-
trying that.
You
shouldn't
know,
they?
our docks are open to the public,
Yeah.
and they were not created to facilitate private enterprise or business. Now, if somebody's picking some people up or whatever, we're not going to get too involved in that, but it's actually against the law to block our public dock.
Okay.
Meaning it's there for loading and unloading and not to sit and wait on your group. You wait out in the water where people can launch their boat, pull it over there, pull their car up, get in the boat and leave. It's not designed for you to sit there and sell tickets to ride on your boat or anything like that. So we don't allow that. Again, if you're there for 5 minutes picking somebody up here and there, it's not going to be an issue. It's just when you go and you block the dock for a long period of time. And we all know on some busy days that dock is used, and we just don't want boaters sitting out there, in some cases in the past, 45 minutes to an hour waiting on a spot to come back and park and go retrieve their boat.
Yeah.
And it's really caused a lot of issues with us.
Yes, sir.
So going forward, you will see some more enforcement and watching that, and we don't encourage that. It's just not designed. We would certainly encourage any kind of commercial activity to go to a commercial marina
Sure.
instead of a public marina.
Yeah. So I'd kind of talked a little bit earlier about the public access, but could you just touch on maybe other project ideas that are in the farther outlook for Dominion Energy once the dam's finished, or right now is it full head on steam with the dam?
Yeah, I mean, as far as recreational sites, I'm not really going to get in the meat and potatoes of that. I know there's several different ideas out there, and I really don't want to put out something and then I disappoint anyone. I can just say we're certainly aware of how much usage that's going on Lake Murray, and Dominion's gonna certainly strive to try to accommodate it as best we can. So,
Well, y'all really are huge supporters of a lot of variety of things here in the community. I know the fireworks show that you guys put on for the public on July 4th weekend is always widely watched.
right. Well, I tell you what, our part of that is Capital City Tourism, Lake Murray Tourism. They actually are the ones that facilitate the fireworks show. Now, we certainly allow them to shoot them for our island out there, and then we open up our public beach after it closes on that particular day. We open it up to the public to come and be able to observe the fireworks from people who don't have a boat or whatever, to be able to get out there and do it. So we certainly help facilitate it with both of our parks on the Irmo and Lexington side,
Yes, sir.
to give people an area that wouldn't normally be able to see them to come and bring their family and watch the fireworks. So
Are there any? You go ahead.
No, go ahead, George.
I was going to ask about if there are any rules or regulations in the past year that have changed that homeowners maybe who live on the lake or even boaters themselves need to be aware of.
well, there's a couple of boating laws that have gone in effect as far as the distance that a boat not in idle speed has to be away from a boat that's stationary or a dock. That they've increased, from like 100 feet to 200 feet. Again, you got to be able to enforce those, and it's a challenge for DNR to be all over the lake to try to enforce that. But it certainly has given a better buffer, especially for some of the bigger boats that we're seeing and the wakeboarding boats that plow through the water and make a big wake. It rocks the docks pretty good, I have to say. And so that extension is certainly helping deal with that. As far as our rules and regulations around the shoreline, nothing's changed. I will say that we are in a more aggressive mode on enforcing some of our laws, some of our rules rather, especially on these protected areas and environmentally sensitive and vegetated buffer zones that are around the lake. Some things have, we've got a large area, 650 miles of shoreline that I've got 2 guys that are responsible for that enforcement, and we don't always catch anything. And so we're really much more aggressive in identifying violations and dealing with them in a little bit more aggressive manner that's in the past. And I'll tell you, environmentally speaking, the way things were dealt with 20 years ago are not the way they're being dealt with now. If you had an oil spill 20 years ago, you dug down 3 feet. Now you may have to dig down 10 feet. So that's just an example. But we're thrown into that environmental, subject now that we have to act more aggressive because that's just the way things are, basically.
So George, you have any more questions for Billy?
I guess we could just finish it up with like where people could go to find out more about what Dominion Energy is doing on the lake, and also if they do, or if they're wanting a dock restoration project, or if they're wanting to see if they can get a permit for a dock, where they need to contact.
Well, that's a great question. I certainly want to communicate that. Now we have an online application for a permit now that we implemented in about 12 or 14 months ago. And you can go to Dominion Energy South Carolina in the search portion, type in Lake Murray. When you go to that, you'll see our online application pop up, and you can pay with a debit card or a credit card on that. So it's all done electronically. We still have applications that you can pick up at our office and handwrite them out and give us a check. Yeah. We can still do that. Or you can print it out, the application, on your home computer and mail it to us. So there's several different ways to do that. And then my office manager, her number is 803-217-9221. And it's always good if you have any doubt, any question, please give her a call. She'll be able to give you specifics on what you can and can't do. But we certainly don't want people asking for forgiveness. We want to ask for permission because it's a hard conversation to have when somebody's done something and spent a lot of money, and we have to go tell them they've got to remove it, and there's no gray area with that.
Awesome. So, well, Billy, thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do for Dominion Energy in Lake Murray, and I'll also say thank you for the time that you give to the community.
Sure.
Serving on, at least, I know you're involved with the Irmo Chamber.
That's correct.
Board of Directors.
That's
and,
right.
In line to be chair next year.
Right.
So we appreciate your service.
Got big shoes to fill.
Well,
you're doing a good job.
Episode of The Coal Guys is sponsored by Bell Carrington, Price & Gregg. Bell Carrington is our choice for the best real estate attorneys in town. They are highly communicative and make sure that the closing process is as smooth as possible. With offices in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, they can handle any of your real estate, finance, eminent domain, financial services litigation, and litigation needs. Call their Columbia SC office today at 803-509-5078.